let's have a look at malware. What is malware? Malware is just software. All right, so you think of a piece of software like that's used very often, and probably one of the most used pieces of software in the world is Microsoft Word, where you can write yourself a document, a paper, put together a resume, or Excel, or Adobe. They make PDF, right? So you can create PDFs. These are all just normal software. Malware is software that's written for the intent of destruction, of cracking into systems, of destroying data, of exfiltrating passwords or whatever it is. So malware is malicious. It's built to damage. It's built to disable, or sometimes to get full control of a system to somebody. And so it is for the purpose of theft, fraud, killing systems, stealing data, destroying organizations. So malware programmers, they use it to attack, for instance, browsers. You can attack a browser and track websites visited. That's a very kind of a simple piece of malware in some cases, to slow down systems and degrade performance. So this malware doesn't steal anything or crack anything. It's bothersome. Or to actually cause hardware failure. There's classes of malware, specifically fraudulent firmware updates that can brick a system, rendering the computers inoperable and as useful as a brick or a boat anchor. There are also pieces of malware that are written to steal personal information. They have special coding in them that search out different types of personal information, scrape that out of the data that's available on systems, metadata, etc., and more. There are so many different types of malware. So how does it get onto a system? Well, you could be on your phone and get malware. You can be on your tablet and get malware. You can be on your laptop or your desktop and get malware. So let's say that you are on your laptop and a Facebook Messenger alert comes in, and it's from a friend of yours. And the friend who you communicate with fairly often has sent you a message that says, "Have you seen this?" ? And there's a link. And somebody clicks on the link, and all of a sudden it's malware. If you ever get an instant messenger message from a friend, let's put that in quotes because they're not always friends. Sometimes they're just people that you allowed into your social network. You get an instant message and it says something like, "Have you seen this?" or "Check this out." You always need to reply to your friend, "Did you send me a link? Did you send me this link?" And sometimes your friend's going to say, "Oh no, I think I've been hacked." That's happened to me many times. Other times they'll say, "Yeah, this one's about," and they'll talk to you about it, right? So instant messenger applications, portable hardware media devices. You pull up at your office in your vehicle, you get out, it's a nice day. Wow, it's kind of cool this morning. And as you're walking to the office, whoa, what's that? There's a package. Then the package is a flash drive that's brand new, hasn't been opened. It's 256 gigs. Wow, this is cool, a flash drive, 256 gigs. Wow, I wonder how, I guess somebody dropped it on their way in, and you bring the flash drive in, you plug it in to your computer system, and it's not a new flash drive. No, an attacker has loaded auto-running malware onto the flash drive, and now your system is dead, or toast, or hacked, or whatever, and that's a removable device. Number 3, browser and email software bugs. Well, you know the browser has been saying, "You need an update, you need an update," but I've been busy, I don't feel like closing all the 80 different tabs I have open, and then I go to a website and all of a sudden I'm in trouble. Why? Because my browser had a flaw that could have been updated, but I never got around to it in order to update that flaw. Or email and my email client software bugs, untrusted sites and freeware. Have you ever been to downloads.com? Yeah, so have I. I've downloaded many things from downloads.com, and yes, I've been burned. I was in a hurry, That was my first problem. Second problem was I needed to do something on a workstation. The workstation was running a Windows Server version, so it did not have a built-in DVD, CD burning software, but I knew that there was a CD, DVD burning software that I had used before in the past. So I quickly went to one of those free download sites, probably downloads.com or related, downloaded the software, the brand, the name that I knew. It's freeware to help me burn DVD or CD for a customer, client, or something like that. And I went through the setup very quickly, and right away I noticed there was a problem because I had other software that got installed on my system that looked like a pup. Do you know what a pup is? A potentially unwanted program. Either way, I had to remediate the system. I remediated the system, got rid of the pups, got rid of the extra software, the spyware, whatever else it installed on my system. And then I went to a sandbox. There is a really cool program called Sandboxy. Sandbox IE is the name of the program, the app. And I opened up the installer in Sandbox IE, and I found out that the installer, the app that I installed had been wrapped by a new installer, and there was a choice, that next button that you hit next to install something. One of those nexts, there was a choice. I could have taken the check out of the box, and with the check in the box, it installed all kinds of extra stuff onto my system. So yeah, freeware, untrusted web applications, downloading your own software, installing it, you can get in trouble. Downloading files from the internet, sort of the same thing-ish. Email attachments. Somebody opens up an email. The email has an attachment, and it's just a Word document from a colleague, or somebody has an interesting thing to show you, a picture or whatever, and lo and behold, it's malware, or like you saw with what I was talking about with that piece of software that I had that installed other software, right? So another aspect of malware is it can do what's called beaconing. With beaconing, the malware says, hey, I've installed on a system and it's great here. Everybody else, come on over. And it sends out a signal to command and control services and other types of communication on the internet. And you can get other malware from installing one piece of malware. Also, Bluetooth. There is the possibility, and there are pieces of malware that are built to do this, to propagate Bluetooth to Bluetooth to Bluetooth. And of course, if you're running Wi-Fi, you can get malware through Wi-Fi networks. So many different ways. And I'll tell you what, attackers are being more and more innovative in the way they could deliver malware to your system. Very important that we understand this and we know how they do it, so that we can defend against it. All right, so some common techniques they might use to distribute it on the web, right? So some of these are very interesting. Like for instance, black hat search engine optimization. SEO is search engine optimization. If you are working for an organization that has a web presence, one of the goals of these organizations is SEO. Especially if you have products that you sell on the web. And what SEO does for you is it helps to get your advertisement as close to the top as possible. But an attacker who's written some type of application that's going to infiltrate, destroy, or whatever, it's a piece of malware, they can do the same thing with their piece of malware. And so when you type in a search term into Google, there's an ad on top that looks interesting. You click on it and boom, you have been hit by malware. Also, social engineered clickjacking, where they trick you into clicking on innocent looking web pages. Hey, this is just a little pop-up. They have something that looks interesting to you and you click on it. Malware. There's spear phishing, where they're going to target using legitimate looking institutions. And in this case, they're very often trying to steal your login credentials. And then there's malvertising. This is like black hat SEO, but it's more general. With malvertising, there's an embedded malware in ad networks that gets to go to through hundreds of legitimate looking high traffic sites. One of those links is not like the others. You click on it and you have malware. There are also legitimate websites that could have be compromised by scripts and malware embedded. What the purpose is to get to unsuspecting visitors. They're drive-by downloads. A drive-by download is unlike most compromised websites. They are compromised, and there's a script that attracts you to click on a button. It could even be something like error in the site, or oops, something happened, and you click on a button to close it. But when you click on the button to close the little pop-up, you're actually clicking on OK, essentially, to run the malware. But in a drive-by malware, drive-by download type of exploit, there's a flaw in the browser. Maybe the browser hasn't been updated in 6 months or something like that. And that browser flaw, just by downloading that web page, just by visiting that web page, you get hit by malware. And then there's spam. We all get spam and in this unwanted email, but this spam has some type of enticement for you to click on a link, and boom, that's where the malware gets you. What is in malware anyway? What's in the mix of malware? There are components of malware. Now, if you look at the list of these components, all malware has some of these components, but most malware does. I don't think of any malware that has all of these components. All right, so this is a mix of potential components depending on the writer of the malware. They'll have some of these things. Let's look at each one. The first one we have is a cryptor. It's actually a cryptor. What it does is it tries to make sure that the malware is not vulnerable to analysis. Right? So what happens is people like you, network system engineers, ethical hackers, what we do is we take the malware sample that we find on a system, we take the executable and anything related to it into a malware analysis lab, and we take it apart to find out what it does. And what the author of the malware doesn't want us to do is precisely that, reverse engineer or analyze it. So what they do is they have protections in the code to make it more difficult for me or you to see what's going on inside it. And that protection is it's not 100% encryption like AES or something like that, but it does try to obfuscate, like an obfuscator, right? Concealing the code. The obfuscator is very similar. Cryptors are a little bit more leaning towards actual encryption than obfuscators, but both of them are there to hide the internals of the code so that security mechanisms don't find it, won't remove it, and blocking you and me from reverse engineering and analyzing it. A downloader is a Trojan. So whenever you see the word Trojan, that means that it looks innocent. So let's say that you found a program that played solitaire online. It looks like a regular solitaire program, but it isn't. It's a piece of malware, right? So a Trojan looks innocent. So whenever you see that, remember that it's a piece of malware wrapped in an innocent-looking program. But what a Trojan does is it can download malware from the internet on the PC. And so in a downloader, you run that solitaire program, and as you're going through the install routine or as you're running it or whatever, it's calling to a command and control server and say, hey, I found it, I'm installed, bring the rest of them. We also have droppers. This is another Trojan. Remember, innocent-looking program, but really what it does is it covertly installs other malware files in the system. So if I downloaded and began to install that solitaire program, instead of it changing and morphing into malware, instead it's going to, in the background, be making those calls, dropping that malware onto my system. Or an exploit. What is the exploit? This is something that virtually all malware has. there is a vulnerability on the system, in the browser. And the exploit is the code that breaches that vulnerability. So it uses the vulnerability to get through system security and install the malware. The next one is an injector. What this does is it injects code into, look at this, running processes. So if you do a Control-Shift-Escape on your computer, that will start Task Manager. And in Task Manager, you see all the running tasks. If you click on the Details tab after doing that Control-Shift-Escape, go to the Details tab, you see all the individual running processors with their PIDs, process IDs, and you take one of those processes and you inject code into that process. And what that code injection does is normally that process would run in a certain procedural methodology, but in this case, it jumps from one part of the execution around the main code to the malware and execute a piece of malware that's hiding in running processes, hiding to prevent removal because it looks like a normal running process. Then there's an obfuscator. We talked about that. There's a packer. This program allows you to bundle together. So if you want to put together a nice little Trojan, there are packers that you can use. And these are applications that are available all over the internet, all over the web. And what they do is they bundle together that malware executable using compression to bypass software detection from your anti-malware solution. Then there's the payload. The payload and the exploit work together. The payload allows the control over a computer that's been exploited. Again, look at exploited. So that we run the exploit, the payload is delivered, and once the payload is delivered, that allows us as attackers to do whatever we want. In some cases, it is control over that computer system, but all of it has at its core some type of malicious code. Right? It is a set of commands, a set of procedures, a routine, an application, a program that has functionalities built for stealing data and creating backdoors, among a host of other things. So with that said, all these components